The release of the 11 Nigerian soldiers was expected to close the matter. Instead, it marked the beginning of a far more troubling phase. The aircraft crossed into Burkina Faso's airspace without clearance, touched down under unclear conditions, and instantly triggered a full military lockdown in the capital. In a region already strained by widening fractures between ECOWAS and the Sahel states, the timing could not have been more volatile. Officials later described the landing as a technical failure. But within hours, military analysts began flagging contradictions. The aircraft's route did not match its declared plan. The troop manifest raised unanswered questions. And most striking of all was the silence that followed. Inside Burkina Faso's security apparatus, the central issue was never whether the aircraft malfunctioned. The real concern was why it appeared where it did, carrying soldiers whose mission had never been fully explained. The decision to release the troops was not a concession. It was a calculated move, made after rapid intelligence evaluation and intended as a signal to every external actor watching the Sahel's realignment unfold. The soldiers returned home. The doubts did not. And the consequences of that moment continue to ripple across West Africa. I speak today because the incident involving those 11 troops did not emerge from nowhere. In this region, nothing happens without a chain of unseen actions beneath the surface. When that military aircraft entered our airspace without authorization, every alarm designed to protect our sovereignty activated at once. As head of state, I cannot afford assumptions of goodwill. My duty is to defend our territory, our people, and our future. When my commanders informed me that the aircraft had landed in Ouagadougou, I asked a single question. Are we facing an accident, or an undeclared mission? That question guided every step that followed. The soldiers were detained, questioned, and evaluated. Not to provoke confrontation, but because Burkina Faso has reached a stage where uncertainty itself is a threat. The Sahel is under pressure from all directions. One misjudgment can open the door to destabilization. Many beyond our borders viewed the release of the troops as the end of the story. They misunderstood. What occurred inside our operations center told a very different narrative. Irregularities in flight records. An unusual route. Gaps in communication from parties who should have notified us in advance. These factors forced us to treat the landing as a potential breach, not a simple emergency. Some accused us of overreaction. I reject that framing. Burkina Faso has been targeted before by covert agendas, unauthorized flights, and intelligence operations disguised as humanitarian or logistical missions. I carry the memory of every incident that cost our soldiers their lives. I will not repeat the mistakes of past governments that trusted blindly and paid in blood. Releasing the troops was not softness. It was a decision rooted in intelligence, restraint, and a commitment to stability within the Sahel alliance. We demonstrated that violations of our sovereignty will be met with firmness. And we showed that diplomacy remains possible once facts replace ambiguity. But let there be no confusion. Burkina Faso will question any action that threatens our security. We will challenge any force that tests our borders. And we will respond with unity, discipline, and resolve. Because this incident was never isolated. It was the opening move in a broader contest unfolding around us. And I intend to expose that contest step by step. When the aircraft landed without authorization, my concern was not the plane itself. It was the silence that followed. In West Africa, silence is rarely accidental. It signals hesitation, internal disagreement, or concealed intent. For hours, neither Abuja nor ECOWAS provided a clear explanation for the presence of foreign troops on our soil. That silence told me something was unfolding behind closed doors. Inside our command center, every detail was examined. The flight path contradicted the official account. Communication logs showed unexplained interruptions. Even the condition of the aircraft raised questions about whether the malfunction was genuine or convenient. I instructed my generals clearly. Burkina Faso will not accept narratives that contradict verified facts. We have survived too much deception to return to blind trust. During the questioning of the 11 soldiers, my objective was not humiliation, nor conflict with Nigeria. It was clarity. In this region, misinformation is a weapon. The soldiers were disciplined, but uncertain about what they were permitted to disclose. That alone suggested layers beyond the public explanation. I will not reveal every detail learned. Not from fear, but from responsibility. National security demands restraint. What I can say is this. Several elements did not align with the story of a simple emergency landing. And that knowledge shaped our response. Our decision rested on three strategic calculations. First, escalation would have handed ECOWAS-aligned actors an opportunity to portray Burkina Faso as unstable. Second, the Sahel alliance prioritizes predictable cooperation, even amid tension. Third, we had already achieved what mattered most. We asserted our sovereignty and made it clear that no armed force enters our territory without accountability. By releasing the soldiers, Burkina Faso had already won the decisive battle. We demonstrated discipline, intelligence, and command. We showed Africa that the new Sahel does not panic, submit, or react blindly. But we also identified signs of a broader pattern, one that threatens the regional balance of power. That pattern cannot be ignored. In the days that followed, many asked why Burkina Faso acted so decisively. They forget that our nation sits at the center of a silent struggle for influence in the Sahel. Every action on our soil is observed, interpreted, and exploited by actors who prefer to shape West Africa from the shadows. This was not an accident. It was a test. Someone wanted to see how far our sovereignty could be stretched. The signs had been accumulating for months. Flights skirting restricted airspace. Intelligence reports pointing to coordination between foreign operatives and regional political actors. Statements from ECOWAS that hinted at pressure inconsistent with public diplomacy. The unauthorized landing fit seamlessly into this chain. When my commanders informed me of the aircraft's registration, I understood immediately. The concern was not the soldiers themselves, but the possibility that their presence was meant to observe our defenses, test our response time, or measure our political unity. These tactics are not new. Burkina Faso cannot afford to ignore such possibilities, especially when adversaries are searching for even the smallest fracture. Within Nigeria, there are political factions aligned with external interests opposed to the Sahel alliance. I do not speak of the Nigerian people. They are our brothers. I speak of elites who believe West Africa must remain divided, dependent, and vulnerable. A united Sahel threatens their influence. That is why our response was controlled. Firm, but measured. No chaos. No panic. No emotional reaction. The message was simple. Burkina Faso is no longer a state that can be manipulated or intimidated. Releasing the soldiers did not close the matter. It signaled awareness. What landed on our soil was not merely an aircraft. It was a message. And the Sahel must answer with unity. Observers abroad accused us of creating tension. They speak from distance, untouched by the realities we face. They did not witness villages destroyed by insurgents armed through foreign channels. They do not carry responsibility for a nation forged under pressure. When we traced the aircraft's movements, our concerns deepened. Route deviations. Communication gaps at critical moments. Timing aligned with intelligence warnings about surveillance of Sahel military readiness. None of this was coincidence. Within ECOWAS, some leaders still cling to the old order. They resist the idea that Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger have chosen sovereignty over submission. For them, any ambiguity becomes a tool. I will not allow Burkina Faso to be used again. Our people have changed. They expect leadership that stands firm. That is why our response targeted not Nigeria as a nation, but those who profit from confusion and weakness. Diplomacy required the soldiers' release. Strength required that we send a message. Burkina Faso will verify every explanation. Monitor every aircraft. Question every anomaly. This incident confirmed one truth. The Sahel has entered a new phase of geopolitical confrontation. Alliances are ideological as much as military. And subtle moves will replace overt aggression. We recognized this move. We responded. And we remain vigilant. Many assumed normalcy would return after the release. I knew otherwise. This event revealed vulnerabilities outsiders hoped to exploit. It reminded me that every decision must protect the nation's future. The greater concern discussed in our briefings was not the landing itself, but the attempt to test Sahel unity. External actors know that cooperation between Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger disrupts all power networks. A poorly handled incident could have sown mistrust between partners. That was the real danger. I refuse to allow division. Our enemies rely on fragmentation. We will deny them that advantage. The questioning of the soldiers was precise, not hostile. Clarity was the objective. And the release demonstrated discipline, not fear. Still, the event exposed a deeper shift. Diplomacy is increasingly used as cover. Military cooperation as surveillance. Humanitarian language as pressure. These tactics have cost Africa dearly before. They will not return unchecked. That is why we are strengthening air defenses, improving coordination, and building a doctrine that secures our skies as firmly as our borders. The release was not the end. It was a reminder. In this era, the real battles begin long before weapons are drawn. Critics spoke of unnecessary tension. They are the same voices that remained silent when our people stood alone. I do not measure decisions by their comfort. I measure them by the safety of Burkina Faso. This incident tested our readiness. And we passed. Someone wanted to observe our reaction. They expected panic or fracture. Instead, they saw unity and control. Nigeria remains a partner. But we are aware of actors who exploit relationships to advance hidden agendas. Their strategy failed. This experience reinforced my resolve. Our skies must be watched. Our intelligence sharpened. Our alliances strengthened. We released the soldiers. We did not release our vigilance. The event triggered deeper review. Intelligence mapping revealed increased surveillance flights, coordinated influence campaigns, and efforts to portray the Sahel alliance as reckless. The aircraft was never the real threat. The network behind it was. A self-governing Sahel challenges old assumptions. That is why it is tested. We have buried too many citizens to take breaches lightly. Our response is shaped by memory, not fear. This incident strengthened our unity and marked a turning point. Burkina Faso is no longer underestimated. The deeper work continues. Command structures reinforced. Surveillance upgraded. Coordination with Mali and Niger intensified. Those who hoped to expose weakness saw discipline instead. The 11 soldiers were not the enemy. The strategy behind the incident was. Burkina Faso welcomes cooperation. Rejects manipulation. Accepts dialogue. Refuses submission. The world will remember a brief headline. We will remember the lesson. Vigilance is not optional. It is the price of sovereignty. The Sahel has entered a new chapter. And Burkina Faso stands ready. We stand disciplined.